Hello fellow cinephiles, 90s Film Guru here, thanks for joining me today. So today I'll be looking at 10 films, not in any particular order, of the most anticipated films for me this year. They're going to vary, there's not one I'm more excited about the other, but it's just about sort of talking about the films coming out that I'm looking forward to. Okay, so here are 10 of my most anticipated films of the year. Fantastic Four. Now, I've been wanting a good Fantastic Four film for quite some time. I think that that Lost film that never got released, I saw that and there were some good ideas in it. And the early 2000s Fantastic Four movies weren't great. The second one better than the first, at least something happened, and I liked the introduction of the Silver Surfer. But they didn't really contribute much to the Fantastic Four story and what I really wanted to see. So I'm hoping this new Fantastic Four is going to be really great. Slated to come out in July 7th, so I hope we do get it, and I hope it is as good as I anticipate it to be. We really need a good Fantastic Four film, in my opinion, just because they just haven't lived up to how great those characters are, and the Silver Surfer as well. Heart Eyes. Look, I'm a big slasher fan, which people probably know from this channel, and Heart Eyes looks really great, and it was co-written by Christopher Landon. Anything that Christopher Landon does after loving Happy Death Day, I watch anything he does, and I'm so looking forward to this. I love the mask, I love the creepiness, I love how it's taking place at Valentine's Day, and I think it could be a really fascinating film if it's done right, and it could be a really good sort of Valentine's Day film for couples to go to, which could be kind of interesting as well. Mickey 17. Bong Joon-ho's follow-up to Parasite. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Robert Pattinson looks really good in it. It's kind of quirky and odd. It's definitely the type of film that Bong would really do. And I love the sort of sci-fi element, and that there's multiple Mickeys. I like that idea from the trailer. I thought that was interesting, and I'd like to see what he does with it. He has a really quirky and interesting sense of humor, and I like that he injects that into the movies he makes, and this is definitely going to be one of those sort of films. The Monkey. Now this is Oz Perkins' follow-up to Longlegs. I loved Longlegs. I thought it was fantastically done, an interesting creative thing that was sort of Silence of the Lambs with a bit of Seven involved in it, and I like the creepiness and the atmosphere that he creates in that film. And I think The Monkey's going to be kind of similar. I think it's going to be crazy and wild, much more like Jordan Peele's Us than anything, but I kind of like to see what they do with it. I like the cast. I think Theo James is an interesting actor, and I've liked him for quite some time. He hasn't really had that film where he really shines. I know there's the Divergent series that he did that he sort of stood out a little bit in, but he hasn't really had that sort of grand standing out sort of film, and I'm hoping this could be kind of it for him. And Oz Perkins is going to make an appearance as well. It seems quirky and odd. I think what it is the idea of making a wish and there's consequences to that. That these people use this money to make wishes, but it causes death and destruction, and they have to sacrifice something in order to get what they want. I think that's kind of a very interesting concept, and with Oz Perkins' ability to create suspense and mystery and a real sort of unsettlingness, I look forward to what he does with this film. Knives Out 3, Wake Up Dead Man, and it's classified now, which is Knives Out 3, but it says it's a Knives Out mystery. So it's kind of interesting the direction that Rian Johnson's going in with this. I think we haven't seen a trailer yet, so we've just seen sort of images and bits and pieces, but I'm on board anyway. I love the first two. I think Rian Johnson is a really fascinating, interesting director, and I think he's really established a fascinating sort of collection of movies with these Knives Out films. Daniel Craig once again returns. He looks a bit different. I look forward to seeing him do something different and want to see what he does in this movie. But besides him, there's a really sort of interesting cast. You got Kaylee Splaney, Glenn Close, Jeremy Renner, Josh Brolin. Whether all these people are actually in the film, I don't know, but these are the people they're talking about will be in it, and I'm looking forward to it. There's no release date for it yet, and I hope we do get it at the cinema, and a bit longer at the cinema than we got the previous film. The next one is Sinner, that stars Michael B. Jordan and is directed by Ryan Coogler. And it's a vampire tale set in the 20s or 30s, I think. It's about these two hunters who find this, obviously a nest, I guess, of vampires. And all these things unfold. The trailer is fantastic, with Michael B. Jordan standing there in a singlet covered in blood with a gun in his hand. And just the trailer itself is just fantastic, and I hope the trailer represents how the movie is going to look and feel, because I think it's a really interesting concept, and I want to see sort of them do something a bit different with the vampire sort of sort of film. Other films I'm looking forward to, there's 2 Frankenstein movies coming out. One is done by Guillermo del Toro, which looks and sounds fantastic, and I look forward to seeing what he does. He's a perfect choice for the sort of bring this sort of Frankenstein story to life, because he's just his way of handling monsters and how he puts a lot of heart into his sort of horror sort of sci-fi-ish films, and I look forward to seeing what he does with this. I think it's got a great cast. There's no real date on when it's meant to come out. It's meant to come out this year though, and hopefully we do get it. I would have liked to seen Andrew Garfield as Frankenstein, but I know that he couldn't do it, and they brought in Jacob, so there's a kind of a different aspect to what it would look like, and I hope it's still really good, but I have no doubt that it's going to be a very interesting movie with people like Oscar Isaac and the horror queen at the moment, Mia Goth, who I'm a huge fan of. I really look forward to what Del Toro can do with this, and the story he wants to tell, and how he tells it, and how much we're going to care about Frankenstein, because we kind of do a little bit in the original film from the 30s, but with him at the helm, I can only imagine this is going to be quite an extraordinary Frankenstein. And we're also getting Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, which is sort of taking the Frankenstein story and setting it in the 30s, I think. So it's sort of much later. We get Christian Bale's a very interesting looking Frankenstein, and there's some great cast joining him. Jessie Buckley's in there playing the bride of Frankenstein, which is kind of interesting. I like to see the dynamic between her and Christian Bale, and the characters, and what sort of story Maggie really wants to tell with this film. And I'm gathering it's going to be much more from the bride of Frankenstein than Frankenstein himself. And I want to see what these characters look like in a time period that's different to when the story is originally set. And I really want to see this different take on this classic story. We're up to the last 2 sort of movies I'm really looking forward to. I want to see these other ones I mentioned, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, what type of films they are. And I am looking forward to seeing them. But these last 2 are the ones I highly, highly anticipate. One is going to be Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This trailer looks fantastic. I've loved this series. I've been a fan of the series, but it wasn't until Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation that I became fascinated by it and really invested in it. And each sequel we've got after that, with Fallout and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, these films have just taken off since Christopher McQuarrie came in and started writing and directing them, and he's working with Cruise is really great, and how each time Cruise is trying to prove himself and doing bigger and bolder stunts, and I'm kind of interested to see what they do with this. And it feels like this could be the final one, because of the fact that there's little Easter eggs in there for people who've followed the series. There's something that looks like the rabbit's foot that we got from Mission Impossible 3. There's a knife from Mission Impossible 1. And I think they're just going to sort of start looking at characters and things and becoming, this film's going to be the most epic. Whether they kill off Ethan Hunt, I don't know. They probably won't, but they might. So the stakes are pretty high with this film. And just to see where this series goes, how exciting and heightened it has been for the last few films. And I really want to see what Christopher McQuarrie does with this, what heights he gets to. This stuff involving the submarine, which we learned from the previous film. There's scenes where, you know, Ethan's in the middle of the ocean and just wearing shorts, and what's happening there, and just like all the other characters, and we could lose someone else, you know, because we lost Elsa in the last one. Part of me really hoped that Elsa would come back, but I think the impact of her death on Ethan could shape him into a much more damaged character, and we could see just a different side of him than we have in the previous films. But I'm sure Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie are going to deliver with this film, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope it's really great. Now, the last film, the one I'm probably most excited about, looking forward to. There is another film in the same universe of it that I'm looking forward to probably more next year. But after seeing the trailer this year, after seeing an extraordinary trailer that reinvested me into this particular character, that sort of had a variation on the sound, and it showed us the impact and power of this particular character with this trailer that I loved. James Gunn's Superman. This looks fantastic. I must admit I was iffy when I first heard about this, with the introduction to all these characters. didn't think Krypto was a good idea to bring in because it looked silly, and I knew it was going to be a sort of a digital. And I wasn't completely sold on David Colesworth as Superman either. There was just all of these things niggling at me because I hadn't seen him in anything where I thought he really stood out or really suited that particular character. And I just felt like I was really hesitant about this movie, and I was much more interested in the Supergirl film that we probably get next year that starts filming this year. And before the trailer came out, I was a bit iffy. But once the trailer came out, I saw that what they were doing with it. I love was thrown straight in the action and Superman's hurt. Introduction of Krypto, the first time I saw the trailer, I didn't love. Now I'm really grown to love that character. I really like what James Gunn's doing with it. I still think it might have too many characters, and I think that Nathan Fillion's haircut as that character looks a bit stupid. But what I like about it is it feels much more like the Superman we used to have. You know, before we got Snyder's version of Superman, which I think is solid and interesting and is very unique to the way Snyder makes films, and it's his Superman. But it's not the Superman I grew up with. Christopher Reeves is my Superman. He's the Superman I saw in the Superman movies that are taped off TV and watched like over and over and over again. And he's who I imagine and see as Superman. And I'm still a huge fan of the original movie from the 70s. And I think variations on it have been interesting. Smallville was kind of interesting, and I think Bryan Singer's version was okay. I liked what Brendan Ralph did with that though, with Superman. But when we get to Snyder, it's much more grittier and darker, and he's got much more weight on his shoulders. Where this feels much more like the earlier Supermans, but there's weight on his shoulders, you know what I mean? Obviously something's happening, everybody's against him, he's trying to stand strong, he doesn't know what to do, and he turns to people to help him. Like, he from what I gather, he lives in a world that is where superheroes exist. He's not the only one. So that's kind of an interesting take on it. And I was worried there was going to be too much humour, but from the trailer I've seen, I don't see too much of that. There's just all these really great hero moments where he saves the kid, where he's injured and he whistles to Krypto and Krypto takes him home, and just everything he's going up against in that film. From what the trailer shows, I have high expectations for the film, and I hope it's really good. But I have faith in Gunn. I really like the Guardians movies, well, the first two anyway, and I think he can bring something interesting, unique to it. I love the idea of Lois Lane and Rachel, who's cast. I like that she probably knows he's Superman, and I think Nicholas Hoult is probably going to steal the film as Lex Luthor. I think he looks really great and suits the role, and I really want to see what he does. I think he's going to be a standout. I like what they're doing with him. I like it's more of a traditional Lex Luthor, which I really like. And I just think Hoult can bring something unique and interesting to that particular character. Even though we've had many variations on Lex Luthor, I just think he could do something a bit different with it. And I like he's much younger as well compared to the other versions of Lex Luthor that Gene Hackman did, that John Cryer did, even Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville. I think overall it's going to be a fascinating film. And if he can capture the essence of what Superman is and what Superman means to people, and how Superman saves others, I think we could have a really wonderful Superman film again, and it can get back to the Superman that everybody sort of grew up with. The much more happier, lighter, more, as a friend sort of said, Superman's kind of like a Boy Scout kind of character. I want to see another version of him similar to what they did with Captain America, because I always felt that Captain America and Superman were kind of similar characters, very different backstories of course, and have different abilities, but it's just that moral center of doing what's right no matter what, and making the hard decisions when no one else can or wants to. Anyway, that's it. That's the 10 anticipated films coming out this year. Put in the comments below what films you're anticipating, what films you're really looking forward to, because I'm kind of interested to see what people's opinions are. But this is definitely the films I'm looking forward to most. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Letterboxd and Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.